iMeta Training, one of the West Midlands leading IT skills training providers. Proudly funded by the West Midlands Combined Authority, bringing our region fully into the age of the fourth industrial revolution. My name is Ashwin iMeta, the content producer for our wonderful organisation, and I'll be your compere today. Now, we have a full hour with two of these. It's on this side. No, that side, that side. Oh God, I get really confused when I'm trying to figure out which side I'm trying to point. But we've got Mark Parr, Head of Technology at Buzzacott, and Robbie Tyrie, Chief Technology Officer at OSec. And we've got them for a full hour to chat about the human side of cybersecurity and what a week for us to do that in. Throughout the session, we're going to be dropping some polls for you to vote on to keep things nice and interactive. First question is, where are you in your cybersecurity career? And while that is rolling, I'm going to bring up our first guest, Robbie Tyrie, CTO of OSec. Welcome to iMeta. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for that very upbeat introduction there, Ash. I appreciate it. I'm really happy to be here to speak to you all today. I am well aware that I have got a very strong Scottish accent. I'm based just outside Edinburgh. So if people can't understand me or I'm going too fast, please pop in the chat and Ash will keep me right. I work for an American company, so you can imagine what it's like. Great fun. But yeah, bit of background from me. I started my IT journey in 1999 when I had hair. Not much, but I still had hair. Um, I've held just about every single role in IT, and I've actually taken a note of them, which surprised me when I wrote them down. So I started as a help desk analyst, then moved into development, then systems analyst. I was actually the best job I've ever had was a technology anti-terrorism lead for a while, which was great. Then moved to procurement system specialist, infrastructure engineer, then architecture, then into application security lead, information security consultancy, where I had my own business for a few years, then an information security manager, and then lately I was a head of cyber fusion center at a wealth management firm, which in effect was running application security, security operations, threat intelligence, SIEM engineering. And in the last year, I've moved into a CTO role with a company called OSec. Um, OSec's a cybersecurity company based in New York. We are a true global operation, obviously, because I'm in the UK. Um, I am here to help deliver their continuous threat exposure management system, or as some people like to class it, continuous penetration testing. We also do red teaming and some consultancy as well as that. But yeah, we've been going for about 14 years, but predominantly now the move is towards continuous threat exposure management. And the reason that I'm here is at my previous company, I bought this piece of software and I helped the CEO, advised him on what direction the product should go in. He just phoned me up and said, "Why don't you come on board?" It's too good an opportunity to miss, because I am a big believer on cybersecurity is too complex. I'd like to try and make it easier for people to understand. Far too many tools. I'm a big person on tool consolidation as well. And that's what I'm trying to achieve in this role. So yeah, it's going well. What was the other question, Ash? Sorry.
No, that's about it. It's why did you? I think the last bit was um, where you found your passion for cyber, where you found your love, and it's also it's also okay to say that maybe not, but it is where you find yourself.
It was something new. So obviously I started my career when cybersecurity was non-existent, pretty much. So when it started becoming more relevant. It was something that I wanted to get in. I quite liked the whole defensive aspect of it. Um, I worked for the police.
Sorry, Robbie, I accidentally muted you by accident. Sorry. You said
Yeah,
apart
you see it did. Yeah, I mean,
started at the police, yes.
it was the whole defensive side, and that really appealed to me, just to try and stop the bad guys. I quite liked that. So that's how I really got into it. I had a bit of a passion for that.
Awesome. Hold on, we've just got Mark in. Fantastic. Just adding in properly. There we go. Love live events. Everything can go right, everything can go wrong. Awesome. And now I'm going to I'll bring up Mark up to the stage. There we go. Add spotlight. Mark, so glad you made it.
Yeah.
That was touch and go. That was touching. I was
Well, and that was a good example, I think, of security in full force there.
yeah. I mean,
So I'm pleased to be able to join and to not leave poor Robbie all on his own.
oh man, no, teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work. So similarly, Mark, please tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us how you found your way to cybersecurity, how you found your way to Buzzacott, any personal career highlights that we should know.
Yeah, so worked in technology since 1988, where I started as a technology apprenticeship. And much as Robbie talked about there, he's right. You know, we didn't talk about cyber then, but we certainly talked about cryptography and secure communications and information assurance and information security. So throughout my career, I've always been involved in deploying technology solutions around the world, predominantly by means of communicating, command and control type network stuff. And was really fortunate just to be at some really pivotal moments throughout that part of my career. And I was in defense at that time. I was in the army, so I spent a lot of time putting together things like policy directives for cyber for UK defence. And so I wrote the UK Defence's first cyber policy in 2010 that was across the whole of defence. So that was a really interesting time. It's really interesting because I consider myself a technologist more than just a cyber individual. And that's because I think they're so interwoven and interlinked. Cyber is always that golden thread through everything we do. And we talk about things like security by design now, or secure by design. It's those kind of principles that have always existed. We just say them more. But I think what's really interesting for me, and as I've come into this role at Buzzacott, I'm now the head of technology at Buzzacott. We're a mid-tiered accounting firm. Is I've got to not be the person saying no because security doesn't let you do it. I'm the person that's saying, you could do that, but we're doing it within the framework of a secure environment. I think that's really interesting and an absolute change in the way that we think about security.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I wanted to ask both of you guys, in the I mean, this last week has been a hell of a week for attacks, for intrusions, for major high street brands being. I think this is one of them. This is one of the biggest, most high profile attacks because it's affected so many consumers. The Dragon Force slash Scattered Spider slash I don't know who, however many other actor names they want to throw in there, but the yeah, Co-op, Harrods, Marks and Spencers, all crippled within two and a half weeks. What do you guys? How do you guys feel about that? About the whole situation? Because it seems there's been we're talking about the human side of cybersecurity, and it seems very much like the human aspect of both cybersecurity teams was the vector of attack.
Yeah. It's really interesting. You know full well that the soak time before these attacks was a lot longer than the 2.5 weeks we know about, and that's been interesting. What's also been really telling, and I don't know if people have noticed this, the gangs associated with the attacks are now being, they're coming onto the news and saying what you're being told by Marks and Spencers is wrong. And so that's really interesting now to see that there's another attack vector, right? That's if you start to erode the trust in those organizations. So that's been really interesting. Nobody would want to be in those jobs right now. Nobody would want to be in any of those organizations.
Yeah, I mean, listening to what the teams have had to do, like, response teams, like sleeping in the office all night. I mean, it's been a long time since I've slept in the office, but yeah, it seems like a hell of a time where there's just going to be a lot of shouting in the control room. Robbie, what's your take on what's your
Uh,
take? Yeah.
I used to work with a guy who's actually heading up the Marks and Spencer's incident, so I feel for him. I've been in that position myself at previous companies, and we're all under NDA, non-disclosure agreement to be fair, right? Um, I think the human element's quite important. I, I've actually taken quite a lot of notes, and we've got to touch on it later. But um, first of all, from the human aspect in the news today, particularly the co-op, there's a lot of islands in Scotland, and predominantly the main shop there is the co-op, right? And the shelves are empty. Right, they're not getting their deliveries. Marks and Spencers are still offline, I think, with online sales. That's starting impacting the human side, as well as having a massive impact on the share price and the company's profitability. Right, but what I was going to touch on later is I'll guarantee you, and Mark's probably got to back this up, that their cyber budgets will increase dramatically
Yeah, yeah,
after this, right? It's always let's bolt the door after let's shut the door after the horse is bolted type scenario. It's always the case. So yeah, it's a bit of a nightmare just now, but there is light on the horizon for these organisations because they will get the resources that they've probably all been crying out for. I've seen it myself. Um, so I just hope they can all get through it. There'll be vendors like myself who will be like, yeah, let's go after them. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
they'll have that to deal with as well. But we just everybody in the industry backs everybody else because we'll all be in that position at some point in our lives. So
yeah.
I just wish them the best. If they need any support, I hope they're getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Robbie's spot on there, Ashwin. I really like that. If you look at it if you were sat in their seat now, how hard and difficult it must be for them. They have gone into proper crisis control. So for 2.5 weeks, they've probably been running 3 shifts through this. So that means people not going home or sleeping in offices. Absolutely. That in itself is an incredible feat whilst they recover systems. So you've got to think about that, the impact on the individual. I think what would be interesting for the consumer is really think about what we do with our own data these days and where you put your own private data, because these are all shopping. They're companies that sell product. So that means people with their M&S Sparks account, for instance, will have given their data to M&S. That data has now been extracted. And so I think one of the things that we're going to see change will be the legislation around how we look after our own data and how we might be more responsible for our own data rather than relying on the likes of Marks and Sparks to look after it. That'll be interesting.
Do you, on that note, and this is a quick one before I move on to the next section, do you feel the upcoming the digital I can't remember the name of the bill now, but we've got a new cybersecurity data protection bill due up. I mean, it's going through several readings in the House. Aside from strengthening aside from strengthening the designations of critical infrastructure, etc., do you feel that that with the additional fines for non-compliance, do you think that our legislation, the UK legislation specifically, is going to be is going to be at the point that we need it to be, that consumers need it to be in order to, robustly protect our data that is in the hands of so many different companies?
legislation is always too slow to keep up, and the landscape, the threat landscape, is always moving too quickly. So legislation is too slow. That's part one. You could guarantee you could go to any of those organizations, you could find their ISO certifications, their NIST certifications, their whatever measures they had in place, because they would have had that up to the years. But you still can't legislate it. If people are going to get in, they will get into your network. And so unfortunately, that's the reality of being in this space. This is why organizations like OSec do so well, is because companies need that help, right? I'm a Buzzacott. I need companies like OSec to help me with security, because it is such a big, large, ever-changing landscape. You can't, and legislation isn't good enough. And being fined, we've already seen it. The regulators don't fine enough. That the first ICO fine that came out for BA was peanuts when you think about how much data they lost. So yeah, you also got to look at this if you were the insurer providing that cyber insurance, the impact is going to be a huge increase in dividends. What you're paying, premiums that you pay versus what's paid out. That's going to have an impact as well now.
What Mark's absolutely hit the nail on the head there. How can you expect legislation to keep up when the tools that defend the attackers can't keep up? I mean, think about zero-day threats, Log4j a couple of years ago as a prime example. The legislation's never going to keep up. What are they going to do? Just keep throwing fines at companies who have breaches? That is, to be honest, that is not the answer. It's not the answer. There should be more. I hate to say it because I absolutely hate governance, risk, and compliance. I felt it was a blocker a lot of times to getting things done quickly. But ultimately, in a lot of industries, particularly finance industries, it's needed. There needs to have relevant controls and they need to be tested. I'm a big believer in continuous testing, right? And that's something we do at OSec. Um, but we need to be able to test the controls, prove it, make sure you've got all the governance wrapped around everything you do, and make sure that you're engaging with your risk team and the auditors to keep you right. But the legislation, it's never going to keep up, Ash. No chance.
Yeah. It definitely seems like one of the things where, I mean, it's the reason that for example, iMeta has gathered a board of employers within the tech space, within cybersecurity, because that's the only way that we know how to develop and deliver a curriculum that is on point, that is kind of hitting the skills that we need like right now, as opposed to waiting a couple of years for a curriculum to be developed and so on and so forth. But again, that approach has its challenges in and of itself. Which kind of brings me onto our next section, which is really aimed towards. I think we've got a lot of our iMeta learners in the house, as it were. Um, I'm really interested in what you guys see as the core skills and qualities that you're looking for someone on your team, someone on your personal team, someone in a specific kind of operational team within the cybersecurity space. I don't know which of you, either of you want to go first on that one?
I'll take that one actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot actually. Number one, being able to work under pressure. It is a high pressure environment. Um, should be open to new ideas because technology changes like that. I mean, I started on the Y2K bug. Now I've went through cloud and containerization. Now it's artificial intelligence. I mean, you have to be able to adapt, right? You have to be able to be a continuous learner. And I'm struggling with that. I'm an old man. Mark sounds like he's an old man as well, right? I'm sure it's just as hard for him trying to keep up with the industry these days. Um, I think you need to be a good listener and communicator as well. But I think a lot of thing that's missing, and it's difficult for people who are trying to get a foot in the door, is trying to wrap around the business context of what's actually happening, which is not something you can you can come in straight away to our industry and know off the bat. You need to know how a vulnerability is going to impact the business side of it. I think that's one aspect that I see is missing, even in experienced professionals, that they don't understand the business context. It's all about trying to stop the bugs, trying to stop the vulnerabilities getting into your network, etc. But you need to understand what that actually means from a business context. If you're going to have a system breached, a database that's the client data's got to be lost, what does that actually mean? It brings us back to what we talked about earlier with the current issues with Marks and Spencer's, Harrods, the co-op. What does it actually mean when the customer data is away? Apart from the fine, what have you actually do with your customers whose data has been breached? You need to be able to identify it. You need to reach out to them, get their passwords reset, etc. There's a whole lot of issues that you need to do. And I think it's important that people come with an open mind and from day one they start to learn the business context around security.
Yeah, I'll add to that because I completely agree here with Robbie. Having a CIS qualification, for example, is really great. Well done to anybody who has CIS. But CIS is so much richer if you have a business context with it. And so actually what I think, certainly if you're starting your career, somebody who is inquisitive, has that adaptability of thought is really key. I also really like the point, right? I know Robbie will do a lot of this, as do I. We can never sit still in these jobs. So you have always got to learn. You've always got to pay attention and you've always got to sort of be keeping an eye on the sort of horizon to see what the future looks like, because this landscape, digital transformation, technology, all of these great things is just moving at such pace that if you haven't got that inquisitive mind and that want and desire to learn, you'll get left behind. So I always think when I look at entry level jobs, particularly, I'm not that fussed about the qualifications. I'm more worried about aptitude and attitude as a way to recruit someone. So if I think you would be a good fit culturally, I can put you through all the training. But if you don't have a desire to learn about the business, so Buzzacott, we are an accounting firm. So that means we do a lot around numbers. If you're not willing to understand the impact of not meeting a deadline, not getting a tax return submitted on time, if you think you're just there to apply a control, then they're not the people I sort of want. So I'm very much with Robbie on this to say aptitude and attitude, a willingness to learn and an agility of thought is more important than if you came to me with a CISM assist for, I don't know, a BA honours in information security, whatever it may be. They're all great, but they're not in isolation.
I'll just make the point, right? Thanks for that, Mark. I have got zero qualifications. I don't have a degree. I don't have a CISP, don't have CISM, but I've made my way up the ladder and now at CTO level. So the capabilities, it's there. So long as you're willing to put the effort in and learn and listen and to understand how things fit together, and you've got that drive and you've got the right attitude, you'll get to where you want to be.
When Robbie and I as a team, we talked about this previously when we were pulling this webinar together. I recruited an individual, a young lady who was a mum of two young, in fact, four young kids. She was a nail technician. She's now the head of threat at
Yep.
a large pharmaceutical company.
I've just hired a dance
It's only
instructor.
about 8 years ago that she
Yeah.
started a cyber career. Never done it before.
Yep. I mean, it's about finding people with the right attitude. I hired a dance instructor. I've just hired somebody else who came from the same dance school as her as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Sorry, take myself off mute there. Yeah, guys, that's some really interesting stories. What I just wanted to quickly, I just want to quickly share the results of our first poll that we've got. This is a little snapshot of our audience of where they're at. Majority of them are career changes, training in cybersecurity. We've got a few grads, a couple of people who are already working, and some people who've gotten lost on the way to our Pen Plus class, obviously. Um, and then a lot of people, and then this is the next thing that I wanted to really dive into. We've touched on it with both of you before, but how people got interested in cybersecurity. Few people got involved through personal experience. Most straight into a workshop, which is really interesting. And then I've quarter like working with computers,
Hmm.
and then a small number here coming from the armed forces. Now, I'm really interested in. So I'm interested in both of your paths into the field, but I would really like to learn a little bit more about. Hold on a second. Oh, no, that's the wrong camera. Let me get my camera back up. I'd really love to learn like how, the path from, secondary education, high school, with those years between, where you started and how you first got into cybersecurity and that route. I'm really interested for if you could just go over both of your journeys, just quickly, just to give me a bit more. A few of the people who've joined our session a little bit late.
Yeah,
Mark?
so I'm much like Robbie. I didn't go to university. I left school at 16 and joined the military, and was very fortunate to be offered an apprenticeship. I did a 2-year apprenticeship scheme that was technology based, and I didn't do I achieved a degree when I was 30 through the military in information communication management, and then I did a master's when I was 40, because much to Robbie's point earlier, that continual drive to learn and progress and improve. And that was in line with, getting that, doing my degree at 30 was to allow me to promote in the army. So looking at progression, and then doing my master's was about finding jobs at a level that needed to be a master's, and heads of sometimes, depending on the organization, certainly in professional services, having a master's degree allows you to be considered to be at that right level. So that's how I did that training. But I didn't have those qualifications as I left school. In fact, if I could have, I would have left school earlier, because I didn't enjoy learning it the way school taught me.
Yeah, I think for me, well, obviously I had a good grounding in technology in general with my diverse roles that I've had, kept moving about, learning new skill sets, etc. I was fortunate enough when JP Morgan were setting up their static analysis team that they approached me to help them with that. So that was my first step into security. Never understood it because I was rubbish at coding. But I learned it over the years that I was there. And then I was lucky enough to be approached to, well, basically go and run Clydesdale's Bank's application security function. I actually started my own business to do that. Um, which was great. Word quickly got out in Scotland. It's quite a small environment, and everybody knows everybody else in technology. So, um, luckily, when that was coming to the end of the contract, I moved to Aegon as their information security manager, where again my specialist at that point was application security. It still is, and I was doing database security there. Um, but I felt I wanted a bit more, so I pushed myself, and that's how I ended up at FNZ. Originally to build their application security function, but then there was some internal management changes, and I found myself heading up another 3 departments. So um, that's my journey. It's a bit of a mixture about hard work and luck, but that's everything in life, isn't it?
Well, it's taking the opportunity, Robbie, isn't it, that was presented to you. That's the big thing there. And quite often, just you saying yes to something rather than no, I can't do it. It's
Like,
part of the deal, isn't it?
I think, Mark, you'll know as well as I do that destiny comes along 2, 3 times in your lifetime. It's been brave to walk through the door though,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
take the
yeah.
risk. So yeah, that's a bit of advice I'd give to any students on here. Don't be afraid to take risks. you'll never know. Give it a try. Put everything into opportunities that you're given.
Yeah, there's a question there in the chat that just caught my eye. It's from Fires. It says, "How did they meet them in the first place?" Which I think is about how do you sort of build that network. I think that the nail tech's a really good example. I'm sort of tied in with Robbie's point. She was brave. She went to a conference at the Excel Centre in London and was just walking around asking people all sorts of questions, and saw my name tag. And at the time, I was the head of cyber for KPMG, and she just came over and started chatting to me, and that takes courage, right? To go up to somebody and say, "You do that job. Can you tell me more about it?" Um, and I had a one. I was so taken with how sort of how well she came across by doing that I thought this is somebody I'm interested to learn more about. So I think it ties in with that bravery point. You have got to sort of grasp the bull by the horns a little bit.
Yeah, good point as well, Mark. You need to network. You do need to
Yeah.
network. Yeah, going to conferences is great. Going speaking to people, um, getting involved in webinars like this is another thing. But yeah, just
Yeah.
keep asking questions, be inquisitive.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a bunch of questions. I think we should throw it open to the floor, I reckon. We've got a bunch of questions which I can go through. We've got some on Slido, we've got some in chat. Um, let me let me see. Molly, have you got any questions from chat that you want to bring up to the fore, or do you reckon I should run into Slido?
I have messaged you some of the key questions I saw in chat privately,
Yeah.
and those are also a great selection on Slido, so I recommend you go
Yeah.
through those as
Yeah,
well.
so let's do a bit of both. Let's have a look. Do. Okay, let's see. Oh, top of the list. Okay, this is a more of a general question. You made it clear that fines aren't the answer in regard to data breaches. Do you have alternate suggestions or possibilities as for what could be the answer? So
Yeah.
rein it. Yeah, to rein it.
Take a bit more ownership of your own details. You know that it's a convenience, isn't it? Logging in your details into a Marks and Sparks is a good example. You log in all your details. That's a convenience. It doesn't hurt to log in as a guest and not provide all those details. You almost get a sense the day of the loyalty card's gone, right? That's what they used to draw you in with, but it's a way to mine your data. So I think we need to take more ownership of our own details and where we share them.
I thought you were actually going to say there, Mark, um, don't have the same password for everything that you do.
Well, that's probably part of it as well, right?
Yeah.
That's the sort of thing I'd tell my mother, who's definitely a Marks and Sparks online shopper. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, I suppose it's a kind of fine, but what I'd like to see is that the government forces organisations to allocate a set part of their profits towards cybersecurity or their overall budget for the year. Say, I don't know, 10-15%. It'll never be enough, but that'd be a good starting point. Um, I'll, there's still organisations, quite large organisations, where the CISO function doesn't actually report to the CEO, which I find a bit bizarre in today's world. Quite large organisations, actually. Um,
Well, what kind of structure did those guys do? Where would a CISO
Sits
report?
under technology under the CTO. So I've
Oh,
seen
really?
that model, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just more layers in the hierarchy.
Yeah, I just wish they would take security more seriously. And by forcing
Yeah.
them to allocate a certain part of the budget, might be a
Because
way.
a lot of the time the CISO is seen as a subordinate appointment, isn't it?
Yeah,
And that's why it reports into a CIO or CTO.
they're
Yeah.
not
And really
generating.
what they're there for is to challenge
Yeah.
technology. Technology should be the ones driving forward, and the office of the CISO should be the one saying, hang on a minute, security by design, let's challenge that.
Yeah, if they're not actually generating or impacting revenue. Well, they are impacting revenue if you get a breach, but they're not generating revenue, so they're always often a bit on the sideline.
Hmm. Okay, next question. And this is, I think you guys have kind of covered this a little bit, but for somebody, and this is an anonymous question, for somebody who is completely new in cyber with absolutely no IT experience, what would you say is the best way to get on the ladder? Where do you start?
There is a boatload of free resource. A boatload of free resource. You go and do some basic awareness stuff. Do that. Lots of reading. Read the report that comes out of Marks and Sparks' after action review is a really good idea. But I think if you absolutely have no idea, there are some really good free City of London Police, for instance, do this. A lot of really good base level foundational start point training that's free that you could do online that would just help you start to understand the language and the way that people think about security. I think that sort of is a good start point.
I was actually going to ask you, Ash, what iMeta
Hmm.
say to
Well,
their students.
well, we do. Well, as I say, majority of our learners are adult learners. They're people who've come back to education. They're people who want to retrain. They have some experience, and we have like our learners. The experience range is really from absolutely knowing absolutely nothing and just seeing us seeing either an advert of us or maybe we've had a referral through one of our partners. We work with DWP, with Job Centre, so people who are long-term unemployed, they are referred to us through work coaches. And some people are like, oh, just want to come along, just check this out. And something sparks in them. Something sparks in them. Maybe because it's new, maybe because it's technology. But we've seen these guys when they come in for our meetings, and I listen to them. Like I've met people who were, former club promoters. A lot of mums that are coming to our show, coming to not shows, coming to our events. And they find something, whether it is just working with computers, working with technology, the news, the magic of it, they find some kind of connection. And from what I've read, from looking at a lot of different CISOs, there was an article that I was just reading prior to us starting the meeting, which was where's it gone now? It was looking at the new EU legislation that is driving uh, that is basically driving the skills competencies in Europe. Um, yeah, that kind of yeah, that was there was something in there that one of the CISOs was saying that, like you guys have said, they're looking for people um, with drive, with personal heart, with a work ethic, and then everything else they can train like onto that. So I really think that we're just the people that come to iMeta that really succeed, that find like their first footing, are the people who come with and create their own momentum. They start moving forward, and it is a work ethic. It's a desire to move forward.
Mhm.
And I think you've kind of both covered that really. Um,
So,
yeah.
Ash, whoever asked the question it's a great question, right? But I'll actually throw it back. Uh, Why did they want to join? Why did they want to get into cybersecurity? Focus on that. What do they
Mm,
want to achieve from it?
okay.
And then learn
Yeah,
the
because there's
basics,
so
as
many
Mark said.
facets of it as well, isn't there? There's so many aspects of security.
Mhm.
Is it the pen testing they like the idea of being an ethical hacker, or is it they want to be crunching away at a firewall, or they want to be hunting threats? There's so many different aspects.
Or they want to be stuck on Teams calls all day, Mark. Maybe that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, okay, here's a really good one from Fayaz. What's the best way to show your interest and drive to employers? And I think this is probably coming right down, what are your good networking tips for, new starters in the field?
Yeah, and sometimes people really struggle with this. But it's a confidence thing. You've got to approach people.
Mhm.
Go to the events, approach people, have a little sales pitch. Think about what your little elevator pitch looks like, and I'm sure you probably cover this in the trainings you provide at iMeta. but it takes confidence, and that's really difficult to do. And I've seen people at my level at networking events be unable to engage people because they lack that confidence. So it does take a bit of bravery, which is back to the point I think Robbie raised right at the start.
Yeah, yeah, we do. iMeta does our progressions team. Layla, who's in the session, we work with like all our students. They get a year of support, so they come in for workshops, come in for one-to-one sessions with Layla, Karina, Jody. Really train up on those skills. Really practice. So,
Yeah. And that is a skill as well. And as you get more senior, you have to do it. It's expected in the roles that Robbie and I are in to have that sort of level of confidence to network. But if you could build that early on and have that confidence to go and speak to people, you'd be stunned. But I maintain this. I haven't had a single job since leaving the army that I've applied for online. Every job I've got is through a network conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, look, it's difficult, right? And it's difficult because IT is a lot of people who work in IT, they're not very outwardly, are they? They're kind of stuck in looking at code, etc., and sitting playing computer games, most of them. It's difficult, but you need to take yourself outside the comfort zone. It's the only way that you'll learn and gain the skills to be able to, as somebody did with Mark, go up to them probably at a conference and have a general discussion. But yes, we do realise it's not easy, but it's the only way to get on these days.
Yeah, there's something in that. I've got one of my old bosses is now VP of digital product at Nike, and he was the guy that actually got me into tech. He was the guy that hired me at AOL back when AOL was still a thing, and he still hires uh, for his team based on that passion, based on that connection. Like I remember interviewing with him and I was talking to him about all my serious jobs. So I worked in the government, civil service, this, that, and the other. And he was just asking me, oh, you know, what it was just like I could hear him getting bored on the end of the phone. This was before, Zoom interviews. And he said, "What are you really into?" And then I started talking about my music, started talking about the gigs that I used to put on and produce and manage a band. And my passion just started exploding. He was like, there's the passion. That's what I wanted to hear. That's what I wanted to hear about. So I think there's a role in there about being able to connect your passion, contextualize your passion with in the industry that you're going for. I think there's something in there about that. Anyways, enough of me babbling on. Let's get onto the questions. Okay. What is let's see. Okay, another one from Anonymous. What are some of your favorite and least favorite parts of your jobs? Please be specific if possible.
Oh, that's a great question. Favorite bit is giving people tools to make them more effective, more efficient, more productive. That's the favorite bit. Least favorite bit is being seen as the person who says no or the person that does to the business. Because really interested in this job, and nobody ever get into tech leadership if you don't have thick skin, because you get blamed for everything. And so stand by, if something dares go wrong. So I'll give you a good example. This week we are rolling out a new Wi-Fi across the whole building, 5 floors of building, 600 staff in that site. They're going to come back on the Monday. We've got a brand new Wi-Fi network deployed. I've been testing it for 2 weeks. You guarantee something will go wrong on Monday, and I will have hours and hours of explaining why it's gone wrong. That's the least favorite bit. Nobody will thank me if it doesn't go wrong, though, by the way. That's the other thing.
I'll probably give a slightly cheeky answer. Best bits the people, worst bits the people as well.
Yeah.
We'd love our jobs if we didn't have any clients. We didn't have to deal with clients. God.
The biological interface.
Yeah, I think for me it's because I have got a bit of a bee in my bonnet about this. There's cybersecurity is too complicated, I mean, somebody put out the mind map of a CISO, and it was like massive, and it had so many features. I seen it on LinkedIn last week, and I'm just thinking, how many tools is that? So I'm quite passionate about trying to consolidate tools for multiple tasks. Cyber doesn't need to be complicated. Um, at my previous firm, I, I was actually there when we were building the security function out for real. It was that I'd only been gone for a year, and I only had like 5 or 6 people in it. And when I left, it was up to something like 80 odd. It was crazy. There was no need for it. There's no need to make things complicated. It's do the basics right, which, as you should know, it's the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability, right? I mean, get the basics right, and you're on to a winner. Don't overly complicate it. I think like, another bit of advice that I've just thought about is um, to be successful is to have quick wins. I mean, constantly deliver quick wins and socialize it as well, and that will get you on in your career.
I've just written a blog for our site on combating well, mental health awareness in remote working, something that I've experienced for, you know, a fair part of my career, definitely over the last 5 years, and getting those quick wins, logging them, like, and internalizing them. It is such a great way of, one, keeping your morale up, and also keep giving yourself momentum to drive forward, giving yourself that confidence. And I think that also feeds in with the networking part that you've both spoken about. Because once you internalize those quick wins, once you internalize those quick goals, that's part of your elevator pitch. Something to talk to potential employers about when you head to that next trade show. Okay, one more question from the floor. We've run up to 3 o'clock. I will try and run as fast as I can. Where do you guys see where is demand likely to be strongest over the coming 3 years, and what new skills and tools do you think are going to be needed?
Well, artificial intelligence is the obvious answer. I hear it in every single meeting I'm on these days. And like, if you're talking to a vendor who doesn't have artificial intelligence embedded, it's a rare occurrence, Ash.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, so true. Yeah, so and interesting. Last week, the CTO of JP Morgan saying they're winding back all their AI initiatives because they don't think they've got security right.
Yep. I
yeah.
mean, I've refused to utilize it in our tools because one, I don't understand it enough, and two, I don't want it contaminating any client data.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I just read GitHub. GitHub's just full of compromised libraries. And they're all around AI agents, AI chatbots, because that's a big, you know.
yeah, but unfortunately, that's the way the industry's going, isn't it? I mean, because businesses want to save money, and AI is going to save money, particularly in the development space, I would say,
Yeah, yeah.
technology. But I, I just, if you can learn the principles of artificial intelligence just now, it'll set you in good stead for the next, well, quantum computing comes in, which is just around the corner.
Yeah, I've been trying to get my head around that, and my algebra. I mean, algebra's all right, but like anything past that, trying to do linear regression. I mean, if there's anyone in Dippo's class online, this is the kind of stuff that you're going to be doing, data analytics, you know, really drill into that stuff. This stuff is going to be really important in the next few years. Sorry, Mark, if what do you see as the big demand? Are you?
No, I'm with Robbie 100% here. It is prolific. Everybody's got access to it. Everybody's using it as well, as we saw recently with everybody making their action figures on LinkedIn through chat. So that's a big challenge for us. And again, back to that point, the landscape is forever changing. You've got to stay current. So always learning and thinking about the next thing.
I've got a question, another question from James. Okay, this one's on experience. I went to the National Cybersecurity Show. A lot of advice I was given was to ignore the demands for experience when applying for jobs.
Mhm.
Would you agree?
I would.
It,
I would.
I agree, but it's a challenge if you're going through a portal, isn't it? So it's back to networking and having a human. You know, if you get your CV in front of someone, it's far easier. So, but I agree. I'm with Robbie, I think, on this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's great to have it's great to have experience for specific roles, right? I mean, team management for example, yeah, a lot of companies are looking for experience that you've done that before, or you can lead a team, etc. But if you're just starting off, it's more about your passion and your ability to keep learning, to keep listening, and to grow as an individual, and just to have that come across. I mean, a lot of let's be honest, right? A lot of the students that I met, I'll get roles in the SOC or GRC, right? That's the two main roles that they'll walk into. You don't actually need a lot of skill sets for that. You don't need a lot of experience in these roles. You just need to be able to learn fast. That's all. So don't let it put you off if you see a job advert that says you need 3 years experience, etc. Tailor your CV appropriately to the skills that they're actually looking for. You've probably already got it, you just don't know it without having a
Yeah,
look at yourself properly. Get it down
yeah,
on paper, get it sent in, or
yeah.
contact the hiring manager.
And remember, guys, if you're at that point where you're tailoring your CV, give Layla, Karina, Jody, our guys at iMeta a call because that's what we're here for. Oops, Daisy, we've got so many questions here. I kind of want to compile all of them and send them over to you if you guys have got time to maybe answer them, and then we can pop that up on a blog, email that out to our students because we're up to three, and know you guys have. I know Robbie, you've got a
Mm.
board meeting to get to. Mark, you've got obviously the rest of your day um, to get in. I don't know if was there any other points anything else you guys wanted to bring up. 1 hour just really doesn't. It just flew by. It doesn't feel like it was enough at all. Um, do you have any?
Lots of really good stuff covered there. I think there's a chap who said he worked on the door. I noticed that spring through. That physical security aspect is, again, it just shows cybersecurity is a really far-reaching thing. Robbie's mentioned this. We perhaps overcomplicate it sometimes, but everybody already has an element of understanding and knowledge because of the way, just the way the world is. It's a really exciting space, so it's great to see so many people join and want to talk about it because it's a great area to work in.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think we will. I think we can. We'll probably start to wrap up there. I think my last section. Oh yes. Oh, there's one more question which I think is probably quite pertinent. Do either of you at either Buzzacott or OSec have any opportunities to break into cybersecurity at either of your companies?
I'm just waiting on that. Uh, no, I'm focused on US markets, so I'm not hiring in the UK.
Okay.
So I've taken on an apprentice this summer, and we'll be looking next summer would be my next opportunity. I do it on an annual basis, unless we grow significantly as a firm, and then that'll change. But right now, I'm sort of thinking about June next year for my next apprentice opportunity.
But everyone out there should keep the jobs board and careers pages of OSEC and Buzzacott bookmarked, either on your phone or browser. Why not? Because join it, and also if you're interested in their companies, I'm sure have you guys both got newsletters, company newsletters and whatnot?
Yeah, we're constantly putting content
Yeah,
out.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Sign up to sign up to a newsletter. You spot a company that you like, sign up to their newsletter. And wicked. Okay, I'm just going to finish with one last little quick fire section. I'm just going to ask you one thing, and you tell me what you fancy, what you fancy, what you feel is better. So this is our quick fire round, as it were. Okay, first one up. Robbie, passwords or pass keys?
Passwords.
Mark?
Pass phrases, but it's almost passwords.
Yeah. MFA or SMS? Robbie?
What's the difference?
One's got an app. One's got the app. The other one goes to your text to your phone. Do you like your MFA apps or?
I'm SMS. Can't be bored opening an app.
What?
Yeah. It's difficult. Context is around this. So both, depending where you are and what it is you're doing.
Okay.
Commercially, in the business, I want everybody to use the app because it also allows me to make sure I can keep an eye on their phones.
Well, that kind of
That's a
answers the next
security
one. BYOD or company issue?
I've been BYOD for years.
So BYOD is absolutely the way that you want to give the user the tools, but I then also like to be corporate deployed because that means I have more control.
I get that, Mark, right? But you see, with new joiners and the amount of requests I get for new fancy laptops, it's draining the budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bug bounty hunters or internal audits from your own talent?
Own talent.
I'm a disbeliever in bug bounty.
Really?
Well, that's not what our company does, is it? We're
No, of course.
So, yeah, no.
And what's worse for you guys, shadow IT or a SaaS sprawl? A big spaghetti mess?
Yeah, shadow IT for me.
Yeah, shadow IT, definitely. You need to know what you've got.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's actually been an hour, bang on an hour. Robbie, Mark, thank you so much. Thank you to all of our guests for having a bit of patience. We had a few technical difficulties at the top. And I just want to send out a huge mark of gratitude to Olivia, our new head of employer engagement, for putting on this wonderful event, getting everyone together. I'm just the guy who talks a lot. And also for everyone else in the webinar, we've got an amazing content and events calendar throughout, lined up for the rest of the year. If you like this, you want to join in more, make sure you're following us on all of the socials medias out there. And if you're interested in skilling up in cybersecurity, data analytics, or digital project management, head to our website, send us an email, join up. Mark, Robbie, any final words? Any shout outs to the family at home?
Thank you all for your patience in me struggling to get through my firewalls to get on, right? In the first instance.
Yeah.
Delighted to spend time on screen with Robbie, who's an expert in his field.
And on that note, Mark actually did this. If it doesn't work or you get stuck, just switch it off and back on.
Yeah.
That's what got me this far in my career. But
Yeah.
no, that was good. Thanks very much. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Ash. Thanks, everybody, for joining. It was really good. I am going to sign off. Thank you.
No worries. See you soon.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.